Welcome everyone to Ep.6 of Paperboy Adventures. Today in the studio we have Ashlin Cook with us, co-founder and CEO of Winnie Lou Pet Foods. Ashlin, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
All right, so just to get right into it, give us the elevator pitch. What do you do at Winnie Lou?
Winnie Lou is a clean pet treat brand on a mission to remove the mystery around what we feed our pets.
Very succinct. I like it. I'm sure we'll get into what that mystery might be. But before we do that, would love to just hear the backstory on the brand Winnie Lou. How did everything come together?
Sure. The original inspiration came in 2016 when I brought home my first dog, Winston. I was that kid that always made PowerPoint presentations begging their parents for a dog, and my parents never gave in. So a couple years after college, I got my first dog, Winston. And like most new pet parents, we immediately went to the pet store to get all the things, and that included treats for training. And I found myself in the aisle just Googling ingredients on my phone. As I was picking up each of the packages, I was flipping them over like I always did when shopping for natural products for myself. And I wasn't recognizing most of the ingredients. There were all of these different meat meals and preservatives, added sugar, fillers, molasses, and it just wasn't adding up to me why the principles of human nutrition weren't translating to pet. And after talking to a lot of fellow pet parents and friends and family, it kind of occurred to me that no one really felt fully confident in what they were feeding their pets, that they got what they thought they were supposed to get. They also didn't understand most of the things that were in the products they were feeding. And it just seemed like there was an opportunity there to empower pet parents to feel confident in what we were giving our pets because they mean so much to us. We want to give them the best. Everyone loves their pets the most. And it seemed like there was an opportunity there.
Yeah, I'll say that's a pretty common founding story. Going out into the wild, looking at the products, you didn't like what was sold in the market. However, very few people actually start businesses like from that insight. Did you know like right away after you had your dog? Did this take some time? How did that all happen?
It did take some time. We didn't found Winnie Lou until 2018. So it was like 2 to 3 years later of just kind of thinking about the idea. I started making some things myself, and we started going to some events. We were living in Miami at the time, and we started going to some events like these doggy brunches and just these activations around bringing people and their dogs together. And that also was really a light bulb moment for me where people's pets, it wasn't just me, people's pets were really an extension of their family and part of their family. And people care, almost just as much about their pets and their dogs as they do their human family and children, and really caring about what we feed them. Unlike, children and family members, they don't have a say in what they eat. So it's kind of up to us as their owners and the people buying their food and their treats to be making the right decisions for them and bridging those two together of like the emotional side of being a pet parent with the health and wellness.
Yeah. And you mentioned you started experimenting yourself with just making I don't know what it was. Was it treats or foods for your dog? What did you start with when you started experimenting?
I've always been really inspired by Laura American and Lara Bar. And I really thought there was an opportunity to translate that really simple simplicity of like flipping over a package and seeing 2 to 3 ingredients that you know and recognize and have eaten a bunch of times before and translating that into pet treats. So I really was playing around with a meat treat and a biscuit in the beginning and trying to create something that had 2 to 3 ingredients that everyone would feel confident in feeding to their pets, feel confident purchasing, and it wouldn't create more questions, which is what I felt when I was shopping for my dog, that everything I picked up actually created more questions for me. And I had follow-up questions to everything I was seeing. And nothing was really making me feel like, oh, I won. I found that product that answers my questions, or I don't have any more questions around it.
Yeah, wow. So started with meat treats and biscuits. I assume you were feeding those to Winston. That was your first test audience.
Yes, I used to take videos of him and I would make all these little treats. I learned some things along the way, like he definitely did not like bananas, so that's why you have not seen a banana treat from us today. But yeah, just playing around with ingredients and seeing what translates with like palatability as well as being natural and limited ingredient.
Gotcha. Okay, great. So this was around 2018, 2019-ish. And
Yep.
I understand was there a doggy food truck or something on four wheels? What's the backstory on that?
So I originally had the idea of a food truck for dogs, and that was going to be the entire idea. Living in Miami at the time, all of these like activations and events I was going to always had these cute food trucks, and everyone was always there with their dogs. So I was like, what an amazing idea and a way to bring these really simple, healthy treats I'm creating directly to the customers and meeting them where they're at with like an engaged audience. And so that was the original idea. So we moved out to Colorado, me and my partner Dean, and we took this camper and kind of retrofitted it into be a solar powered food truck. And that is what we drove around for the first year and a half of the business. It was only the food truck. So we would go to farmers markets and dog friendly breweries and dog parks, and we'd be selling our treats that way. We had like chicken putt pies and little doggy popsicles, and everything was just super simple, limited ingredients.
Yeah, and at that time, I imagine you were making everything yourself, right?
Yeah, we did have a commercial kitchen, but we were renting shifts, so it's called a commissary, and everyone who has a food truck uses it, and you go and you rent like one or two shifts a week and you share this kitchen. And so that's where we were making the treats, and I was buying most of the ingredients from ranchers and farmers at the Boulder Farmers Market, many of whom are still a part of our supplier network today, but really caring about the sourcing the same way that I do for myself and bringing those principles of sourcing and knowing where our food comes from to our pets, treats, and food as well.
Yeah, that's great. I'd love to get deeper into the sourcing and how you work with ranchers directly, but before we get to that point, you're a year and a half in with the food truck. That's 2020-ish, 2021. What year are we?
End of 2019.
Okay, end of 2019. What happened was there an aha moment you decided, okay, we've got to expand our reach. Maybe we go to retailers. What did that look like?
Honestly, it was a very simple aha moment. We moved from Miami, Florida, where farmers markets and all these things happen year round, to Colorado. And when winter came, it was very obvious that everything shut down. I did not feel comfortable pulling the trailer around in the snow. So the camper just became a lot less usable in the winter, and people still wanted our treats even when the events were over. So, how can we get our products to people no matter what time of year it is? And also, our mission was to get more dogs eating cleaner treats. And so, how can we get more animals our treats that maybe can't come meet us when we're on the food truck? So, pairing those two things together, retail just made sense as the logical next step.
Understood. So I'm sure the timing was a challenge because that's right around when COVID started. So is that when you entered retail? Was right about when COVID kicked off?
We started a little bit beforehand, before COVID hit. So we were probably in, I don't know, like 20 or 30 retail doors when COVID hit. And when COVID hit, that was when we kind of took that up a big notch and really went after retail and got into our first few grocery accounts as well. Because I remember the first couple of weeks of COVID, pet stores were not yet deemed like an essential business and they all shut down. And so that was like, okay, where's everyone going? Everyone is going to the grocery store and they're trying to make as few stops as possible. So they're purchasing all of their food and including pet items at the grocery stores. So that is when we really made a push there and ended up getting into Erewhon in our first few Whole Food stores.
Gotcha. And now you're in how many stores?
We're in about 1,500 stores across the US and Canada.
Wow, a long way from the food truck exclusive days. So
Yes.
congratulations on the progress.
Thank
Uh,
you.
One a subject I'd like to go back to that I think is fascinating in today's day and age, the sourcing, working with ranchers directly, manufacturing process. I'll say in early stage consumer goods, it's rare for brands to be doing their own sourcing and manufacturing. Most of them will outsource that to third parties. So, uh, what's your mentality when it comes to sourcing the food that the ingredients that you're putting in these treats?
Part of it is that we want to source better and innovate less, which sounds kind of weird, but I think a lot of CPG today, when it comes to innovation, it's, creating fake meat or creating things that are more processed, and we're trying to take it back to basics. So that's kind of when you look at our ingredient list and you see that the ingredients are bison, turmeric, and flax seeds, like that is where we want to be. And we're innovating on the texture and the taste and the feel and the use and all of these other things. But when it comes to ingredients, we want to keep things as simple as possible and innovate when it comes to sourcing. So whether that's working with regenerative farmers or upcycling invasive species like wild boar and fish species that are invading, waterways and things like that. Like that's really where we focus. And it's something I've actually been passionate about for a long time. In Colorado, there's like a really great slow food movement. We go to farm dinners all year, and really get to see where like food is grown, where is it coming from, how's it raised, because it makes such a difference, the nutritional profiles of food based upon where they're sourced, how the animals are raised, whether there's like pesticides and glyphosate used in the oats, which, now we know leads to cancer. And that's just something I and our team as a whole is super passionate about. Sometimes people talk about like not all bread is created equal and how gluten sensitive people can eat bread made with like heirloom wheats and things like that because it's just better product. So taking those principles and bringing them to our pets and increasing the nutritional profiles of the products that's going into our treats is something that we're really passionate about.
So that's done all by your team directly. You're sort of evaluating what food sources are around you. You mentioned invasive species, regenerative farms. All of that is really interesting stuff. So, could you give us an example of, say, I think you mentioned the wild boar. How does that start from you have an idea in your head of, okay, this is an animal maybe we're going to investigate to actually putting it in a product? How does that process work?
As far as like deciding which proteins and ingredients we're going to go after, a
Yeah.
lot of it just comes to us organically. When we first started, it was local. So we were wanted to source things that were in Colorado. So that's why we started with bison, because we had access directly to these bison ranches. Bison are animals that most of the time they actually can't be raised the way conventional beef and cows are raised, like in confinement, being fed like antibiotics and hormones. Um, Grains that are low quality. They just can't be raised that way. They really need to grass feed most of their lives, be out on the pasture. And so that's what led us to bison in the beginning. And as we've expanded and broadened our horizons and being part of all these different like bison associations and all these other groups that work on environmental sourcing and invasive species, things kind of come across our plate. And we want to evaluate, obviously, first the meat, because if it's not a high quality product, even if it's helping from an environmental standpoint, we don't want to give it to our pets. But wild boar is a really interesting one because it's invading a lot of the white-tailed deer habitats and destroying a lot of agricultural land in Texas. And so it's actually a problem for the environment there. But on the flip side, the actual meat is way better than conventionally raised pork because it's a wild animal. So they're running around their entire lives, meaning the meat is a lot leaner, less fatty, and they're wild. So they're feeding on things natural to the earth, like fruits, roots, plants, seeds, that sort of thing. So all those things lend itself to a higher quality meat, but also something that is kind of being upcycled and solving a problem.
Right. So the wild nature, I guess, of the animals that you're looking for is a big part of the nutrition profile and the end product.
Yeah, none of our products are from animals that are raised in confinement. So our venison and lamb, which we just introduced, are all like free range, pasture raised, grass fed. Our turkey comes from a free range turkey farm that's fourth generation family owned. Like, really, sourcing is something we're very passionate about and kind of a pillar of how we start trying to think of new products.
Right. That's really great. I'm sure all of the animals that are eating these treats really appreciate that, even if they can't tell you that directly. So, when it comes to creating the final product, is that done in your facility or is that done with the ranchers? Could you explain how do you get everything into its final state?
Yeah, by now we have our own manufacturing facility and we kind of know what works and how we need to manufacture products in order to make them without all of those fillers. So most pet foods are made through co-packers, as most things are in the CPG space. And so we had to originally figure out, how are we going to take a meat product that doesn't have preservatives or fillers or added sugar and these things that help keep shelf stability in the products? How are we going to manufacture products that are shelf stable without those ingredients? So that was kind of the first hurdle that we came to, and one of the reasons that we did decide to self manufacture, because when we were going to co-packers, they were telling us, oh, that's great, just add this, this, and this, and then we can manufacture it and it'll be super easy. But that's not how we were going to differentiate and how we were going to maintain our mission of not containing any of those fillers or preservatives. So that's how we landed on kind of the self-manufacturing route. And so now we have a line for biscuits and a line for meat treats, and everything that we innovate on, for the most part, can be made with those same production lines. So whether that's like switching up the ingredients, switching up the texture that go into them, for the most part, they're going to come out in like one of 5 different types of forms that can be run on our same manufacturing equipment.
Right. Well, that's fascinating. I think given the state and the size of the business in this sort of startup realm, again, not a lot of brands are taking the time to do that. And I think when it's done right, of course, it can create a nice advantage for your brand and also higher quality product and more margin for the business. So I know it's a lot of work, but kudos to you on getting it to the state.
Thank you.
Switching gears a little bit to the market that you're going after. So it sounds like it's both cats and dogs. So
Yep.
how do you prioritize between those two? What do you think is, ultimately where the brand will go? Uh, Maybe just talk a little bit to the market.
Yeah, we definitely want to have our feet in both markets moving forward. Cat is, I think, the faster accelerating market. It's a category that's maybe been ignored a bit more over the past decade by like the new natural and premium players coming into the market. And so that's been great for us to take advantage of. If you walk into like a grocery store, we're going to be the only single ingredient cat treats in the cat set. Um, the products that have historically, like the legacy brands that have been in the cats space, are really not clean. Some of them have up to 60 ingredients. Like if you're looking at like Temptations and Friskies and these people who have been in that space for a long time. So that's really our focus right now, innovating on that. And people are wanting it from us. Our buyers are coming to us, asking us for more cat products, which obviously speaks a lot for where we want to innovate next and launch new products. I think the dog category is bigger. It's obviously a bigger part of our business today. Dogs are a lot simpler creatures, I would say, when it comes to diet and what they want to eat, which makes it a little bit easier on that side of things. And there's just a wider variety of products that they kind of need, like the chewable type of products, like our bison marrow bones, the training treats, the jerkies, the biscuits. They all kind of have different uses. Cats are a lot simpler, and I would say the average cat customer spends less on their pet every year. But it's definitely a growing market, and I think it's changing quickly.
Got it. So those are the two primary segments. Are you thinking of expanding beyond that, or is Winnie Lou a brand that will just focus on cats and dogs?
Cats and dogs for now. Never say never, but that's where we're focused for the near future.
Great. Yeah, there's plenty there. So not to say that you need to expand. But speaking of which, would love to hear, I know you've been working on Winnie Lou since 2017, 18?
18.
So you've been working on Winnie Lou since 2018. What's the end goal? Is this a brand that you see yourself running for a long time, or is this something that you're planning to grow to a certain level and then exit? What's the mindset around future?
Sure. As we bring on capital, we have a duty to our investors that we will have an exit event. Um, Hopefully in the next like 5 to 7 years. That's really our goal, is getting this to a place where it is ubiquitous and our treats are everywhere. We're the go-to product for customers who are educated and care about what they're feeding their pets. And so that's really our goal. There's a ton of market left for us to snag, and we're excited to go after it. So that's really our goal, is to keep building, keep expanding on category, keep becoming a larger share of our customers' spend on their pets. Um, I love the brand. I love what I do. I'm really passionate about it. So if an exit came along with me staying a part of the company, it's something I would love to do. And if not, then there's other things that I'd love to tackle. But that's kind of the strategy right now.
Well, great to hear, Ashlyn, and congrats on all the progress with the brand. I know it's not easy building something from the ground up, especially in the consumer space. So, congratulations on all the success so far, and we'll all be rooting for you.
Thanks, Kyle.